Hey everybody, Will here. And if you've seen one of my computer build videos, you know that one shot I'm a fan of is kind of the 360-degree product shot, where I have the thing I'm working on and it spins very slowly, and you kind of see it come together with a 360-degree shot. Now, that's been pretty easy to do in the past. What I've used is this device here, which I've shown you before, which is actually a motorized cake decorating turntable. And it's made by a company called Carousel, and basically you see it's got some switches here for speed controls, and it just spins very slowly, and whatever I'm working on can be on it. And then I've got the camera set filming it spin slowly as it comes together. Now, I wanted to do something similar for the Baja Bug series, particularly the engine rebuild series. But the problem is, of course, the engine weighs something like 200 or 300 pounds. And of course, this only supports 50 or so pounds, so I had a problem. So what I decided to do is, instead of having the engine spin, I decided to have all the cameras slowly spin around me and the engine. Enter my 360-degree camera boom. So this camera rig is something I kind of threw together to just be a big, heavy-duty arm to hold multiple cameras. And as you can see, it's based around this square steel tubing, and it's got a joint here that comes down, and it's supporting, right now, it's supporting 3 cameras. So this right here is the GH1, which was kind of the main camera for this rig that I use for most of the shots. And that was done particularly because it's a really nice camera and it's got the autofocus system, and I was kind of debating whether the engine should be in the center or I should be in the center. But I decided eventually that I wanted to just let that camera be my main camera and let it focus on kind of what it decides to focus on. And then also on it, usually I had 3 cameras on it. One of them was oftentimes the T2i, which is right now here on the bottom. And then I had another camera at the top. Both of them usually were kind of wider fisheye lens cameras. I didn't have the GoPro that's up here right now. It was a Sanyo with a fisheye lens on it. But that kind of just gave it a couple interesting shots to cut from one another while keeping the smooth move going. And you can tell also I put these lights on the inside of the circle. And that was a decision that I made partially to, first of all, make sure everything was lit properly and had enough light. And then the other reason I did that was because I didn't want the shadow of the arm constantly moving across the screen, which would have happened if I had the lighting all beyond the arm. But the other cool thing that I discovered about it is it gave me really interesting ways to cut the video. You could see I chose to cut oftentimes right when the main camera passed right in front of these arms, and it allowed me to cut from kind of a closer shot that was spinning around to a much wider shot, especially that bottom camera to top camera cut. I found to be a pretty cool cut. And this arm is just made to be like really heavy duty and really adjustable and just have things clamp on throughout the arm. You can see it's counterbalanced on this end with some weights that I just got at a sports place. Right now I think it's got about 30 to 40 pounds on it, counterbalancing all this stuff. And the whole point of it is just to kind of spin the cameras around very smoothly for a prolonged period of time. You can see I had it during that video running pretty much the entire time. And it worked out pretty good. And if I show you right now, the mechanism behind it all is this motor right here. And so that was probably one of the biggest challenges of building this thing, is finding a suitable motor for this. I haven't done a ton with electronic motors, but a lot of the motors I have seen spin just much too fast to make this happen. Originally, one of the first things I thought of was using a drill. I bought a cheap drill at Harbor Freight for like $15. And you can tell when you use those and you push the trigger like halfway down, it spins very slowly in its first gear. But when it encounters any sort of resistance, it comes to a stop. So the idea was to have basically a motor that has a lot of torque and spins very slow. And that ended up being this, which is actually a windshield wiper motor. And so this particular windshield wiper motor was from a company called allelectronics.com. Unfortunately, All Electronics is a surplus store that no longer carries this particular motor or anything similar at the moment, but it's a 3-speed motor and I think it's rated for about 100 to 40 RPMs. It has the 3 speeds that go from 140 RPMs, runs off 12 volts. This is actually at its lowest setting right now, and I'm actually powering it at 6 volts. So it's a little bit slower than 40 RPMs, I believe. But you can see the speed, this is as slow as I can get it without doing anything else kind of weird with the electronics. But it's a pretty good speed for the shot. And you can see the drives, or the drive system is just with these bicycle sprockets, which I have to admit isn't the best design. You can see I just have one main sprocket here, kind of being driven right off the end of the motor. The motor has an output that comes straight down, and then it's got the bicycle chain going to a 3-speed sprocket from a bicycle. I wanted to kind of leave it a little bit upgradable so I can adjust and change the speed. Problem is that I learned is these bicycle chains aren't really meant to run horizontally like this. And you can see this spring system that I didn't originally have in the beginning kind of pulls the whole apparatus taut. And before I did that, it had some problems with the chain falling off, and actually even with the system, 3 or 4 times during the shoot, I just had the whole kind of spring, the chain drop off and the motor popped out and everything stopped working. In the future, if I were gonna redesign it, I'd probably do it with some sort of belt-driven system. But otherwise, as you can see, it's very strong, it can hold a lot of weight, and it's probably could have a lot more stuff on it if I wanted to. This part right here was also pretty much made from scratch. The tubing goes through to a center position where I kind of had these bolts break out to kind of create a bearing out of skateboard wheels, and that kind of makes it just a smooth turn and kind of distributes the weight across the skateboard bearings that are inside the rollerblade wheels. A couple other things could have been done too. I could have gotten like a Lazy Susan type setup, but again, I wanted this just to be really heavy duty. Wasn't quite sure what I was gonna put on it, which cameras, what sort of gear I was gonna have on it. And so this is just a big heavy duty bearing here, and the whole thing bolts into the this post up here. It can bolt into anything else or a frame if I made around it. Hopefully I'll use it for some other sorts of shoots. But that's pretty much it. And actually to power the whole thing, to power the motor, over here I actually have a computer power supply. If we step right out here, watch out, don't hit the arm. I've walked into it while I was running a couple times. But this is just an old computer PSU that I kind of hot-wired to be on all the time. And then you can see right here, it's plugged into the 6 volt and the ground. And of course I have the 12 volt in case I wanted it to move a little bit faster. But again, I just kind of wanted to get as slow as possible for this shot, and I think it turned out pretty good. So that's the end of this video. That's the 360-degree camera boom. And if you're new to this channel or new to my videos, I like to do a lot of these kind of DIY camera setups. I got a slider too, which also has like a time-lapse mode on it, which hopefully I'll be showing you in a future video. But until next time, that's it. Thanks for watching.